What's up, everybody? Welcome to Investing in Cannabis.
These are the last days of Prohibition, and this show seeks to feature the stories of the founders, the investors, the marketers that are bridging the gap. The day of getting a little dime bag from your guy on the corner is done. It's not happening.
We've talked a number of times on this show about how anytime there's a booming new industry like cannabis, there's all these ancillary businesses that pop up. So we've talked about how delivery can be revolutionized and how the banking industry has a big opportunity here. And tonight we're going to talk about real estate. Most people, when they talk about real estate and the internet, the first thing that comes to mind is Zillow, right? The problem with Zillow is they're a public company and they're not going to touch cannabis for a while. So what we have on tonight is a company strictly about the data behind cannabis. There is this massive issue of where to sell cannabis, where to grow cannabis, what are the compliance issues, all the different policies depending on what region you are. Different cities have different policies. We've seen this happening in LA versus San Francisco. We talk about Chicago tonight, a little bit about Ohio, and how do you find those places that it's safe to grow or sell cannabis? And then these laws are constantly evolving. So this week it could be 1,000 feet away from a school. Next week it could be 2,000 feet away from a school. And then how do you calculate those feet? Is it as the crow flies? Is it as Google takes you? Some estimates estimate that the industry, cannabis industry, is $4 or $5 billion today. At its peak, it'll be magnitudes bigger than that. The same estimates suggest that the real estate behind cannabis is 2 or 3 times that. So 10 or $15 billion today, and who knows what it could be. And this software, HerbFront, is tapping into that exact market like no one else really is today. They also have taken it one step further and are using that data. They've started a fund to invest in their own real estate properties, so then they can lease that out to companies that want cannabis space. So it's a fascinating discussion about data, real estate, cannabis, and how we take this from kind of an illegal, like backroom, shadow business into, well, I'm leasing a property to grow legal cannabis. We have Matt from HerbFront here. How's it going, man? How are you?
Doing very good. Thanks for having me.
Here. Why don't you just give us the one-liner? What's HerbFront?
Yeah, HerbFront is a predictive mapping and zoning platform that gets down to the parcel level, the properties that are compliant around the country for cannabis cultivation and dispensaries based on their local municipal codes.
Got it. That's a mouthful.
That's a mouthful.
Basically, it's like, where can I grow weed, right? Like, where's it legal to do that?
Correct. If I'm in San Francisco where we're doing this, where are the opportunities that I can put a new location? We can get you down to the actual owner and the location.
Got it. And give kind of a feeling, or I'm sure it's different by region, but are there a lot of places you can do this, or a very few amount of places?
We have mapped out about 140 cities across the country, in states that are probably pretty obvious. There are, to put it very precisely, there's about 69,000 compliant properties across the country, and that actually turns out to about less than 1% of the commercial properties in any given city. It's like 1 in 100, 100th of a percent that actually comply. Some are a little bit better, some are a little bit thinner, but for the most part, it's very thin finding those compliant properties.
Got it. And before HerbFront, how were people finding them?
Yeah, as a commercial real estate broker, as my trade, you would either do one of two things. If you acted as a principal, you would go out and do the research yourself. You would find a location that you thought made sense. You would look up what the zoning is, hire a zoning attorney to make sure it was compliant. Once you did that, maybe it was hire an engineer. How far away am I from a school or a park or whatever the myriad of sensitive use requirements are. And if it didn't work, you had to start from square one. And as I mentioned before, being a scarce resource and very hard to find, you probably had to go through it a couple of times. Now, if you were to use the HerbFront maps in any market, we can show you every compliant property within a few seconds.
Got it. So when you say compliant property, just take me through that a little bit. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know each state is a little different.
Yep.
But kind of what are some of the laws here, right? I mean, I'm sure they're different for just the growing versus being a dispensary. And,
yeah, there's each state, each municipality is different. What we start with is zoning. So each county or municipality will have a very specific code as to what the zoning must be. And from there, we start to see things that commonly come up, like land use, and then it's distance from schools, and then we'll see daycares, churches. In some locations, the list can be 10, 15, 20 long. Some it can only be 2 or 3, but zoning is always a requirement. Land use is often a requirement. Schools are always a requirement, and then from there you start to see more and more layers come into it.
Got it. Interesting. So you were a commercial real estate broker, right?
Correct.
For how long did you do that?
About 12 years.
About 12 years.
Yep.
And how do you have this idea? I mean, when's the aha moment?
Sure. Well, I live in Chicago, did all my brokerage in Chicago. Wise commercial real estate investor came to me and said, hey, Matt, I know you have a background also in technology. This isn't my first technology platform. Okay. He said, why don't you build a technology platform that can identify these scarce resources? If you can find them, they trade at a huge premium. And being from Illinois, where there was no legal cannabis at the time, I looked at the man and said, because it's illegal? I don't know. And he said, well, take another look at it. I think you'll be surprised. And I did my due diligence and kind of looked into it and said, oh my God, there's a huge pricing discrepancy. There's a huge pain point in this cannabis real estate site selection. From there, HerbFront was born.
Got it, yeah. Now the obvious comparison that we could make is like to Zillow, right? I've seen that in the news a few times. But the massive difference here, right, is Zillow being a public company is not going to touch cannabis.
Correct. And Zillow's more of while they are a data company, they're also a listing platform. Yeah. We have a listing platform much like Zillow, but yeah. as a company, our revenue is derived from the licensing of our mapping software.
Got it. Okay, so unpack that a little bit.
Yep.
How did you come up with that model and kind of take me through that?
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than to be good. I was blessed because of prior technology experiences to have friends that were good at the technology piece and friends that were good at the mapping piece, and I was able to kind of bring them together and say, this is what we're trying to build. This is the pain point. What can we build around it? So identifying the problem was the first part, but then having the relationships and the people around me to build the actual software, I had that there, so I was able to, again, build the software.
Build it, yeah. Got it. And then how do you get this first little bit of traction going? I mean, that's a lot of offline work,
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, we did a lot of legwork up front, and we actually launched the software well after the licenses were issued in Illinois, so we really missed the boat. But ironically enough, in Illinois, there were a bunch of people who got their licenses, but then were told at the last minute, hey, you need to change your location in order to keep your license. Well, that was great for us, but a real pain point for them, because the first time around it had taken them about 10 months, and now they had about 100 days to figure it out. We got a lot of traction right there, and from there, kind of the word spread, and I wouldn't call it viral, but it's a small community, and
word got around.
Word got around.
Word got around.
Yep.
Yeah, and then take me through a little bit of the economics of the licensing. Then.
Sure.
Take me through that model.
Yeah, we're software as a service. Yeah. So if you want to have our software, it depends on how many markets you want to be in. Just like any wholesaler, the more you buy, the better the price you get.
Yeah.
We can go down to a very focused area for a 3-month period where it can be as cheap as $750. To there are national players in the country right now that are in multiple locations. They have a national footprint, or they're trying to establish a national footprint. They can license all 140 maps that we've created, and that's obviously a bigger price.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So much of this business relies on data. Mm-hmm. So much of it, right? Because if I'm going to come on here, there has to be listings available. Mm-hmm. There has to be relevant information adding value to the experience here. I mean, where does that data come from?
Sure.
Where are you getting it?
Yeah, it's a great question. We get our data from primarily 3 sources, 3 buckets. Some of it can be public. So if it's zoning or parcel data, sometimes you can find that from the municipality. So that's free. That's just public data that we source on our own.
And are they good about publishing that, or do they want you to know?
Different in every market. Okay, different in every market.
Yeah.
The more progressive the planning department is with their data, the easier it is. But some markets are incredibly difficult. So that's
And do they have like APIs? I mean, how are you tying into this data?
most municipalities don't have APIs.
Yeah.
They'll have some sort of web portal or data portal that we are able to pull it. I'll skip to the third bucket, and that's kind of the data that we build ourselves. So take schools for example. We can go to the municipality and through their data portal get where all their schools are, but that's a PIN, and the law requires it's a perimeter from either the parcel itself or the actual building itself. And our software identifies that PIN and converts it to a shape file that says here's the distance, or here's the shape around the school, and then the actual parcel itself, depending on what the needs are. So that's kind of our third bucket. And then there's a second bucket of data.
So basically, you're taking the laws and extrapolating what that would look like visually to give an accurate.
Yeah, we're taking pins, lat long points, and converting them into a shape file. It's here's the dimensions around said pin.
Right.
And then that middle piece is the data that we buy. So sometimes parcel maps, instead of going out and drawing 750,000 parcels in the city of Chicago, for example, we can go out and buy that. So it's three buckets. Some of it we create, some of it we buy, and some of it's public.
And how do you measure the accuracy of that data?
Good question. We quality control our stuff all the time, and as you'll find in a lot of municipalities, a lot of municipalities don't like clustering, so they don't want a green district. As soon as one cannabis dispensary opens up, that will block off 1,000 foot radius. So the map is a living, breathing thing. It's always changing, and we have a team of people that are constantly updating the software and tracking the sensitive issues that affect the map.
Yeah, I want to talk about Illinois a little bit for a second here. You're from Chicago. I was in Chicago in November, right? And they have medical marijuana, right? But the culture of cannabis in Illinois is significantly lacking, I would say. How is it to be, kind of in the cannabis world? I mean, you kind of have half a foot in the cannabis world, which is really interesting. What's the reaction among your peers to HerbFront?
Surprisingly, very positive. We were in a trade publication, a financial trade publication in Chicago right after we launched about a year ago. I had a lot of emails from people that you wouldn't expect. Kind of pouring their heart out to me, about the industry that otherwise probably wouldn't have poured their heart out. And you're right, we don't have a culture like you do here in California or in Colorado. My own third-party test when I walk up and down the street in the Loop versus when I walk up and down the street in San Francisco, it smells the same. The same frequency. So there definitely is a different culture or belief or talk in the different markets, but yeah, it smells the same.
It smells the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there seemed to be this disconnect between people consuming it and people talking about it, right? And that's kind of one of the aims of this show, is to get people out of that proverbial kind of green closet in a way. And legitimate businesses like yours have a lot to do with that, right? We have to get people that aren't 100% focused on cannabis working on cannabis.
Yep.
Otherwise, we're not going to be a big... Anyway, tangent over, but it's just fascinating because you're from Chicago. So you kind of talked about the data side. That's one side of it, right? Let's talk about just the customer side. I mean, when you said you're in 140 cities, what does it look like to go to a new city?
Yeah. We typically have gone where we've had customers request our service. So, when people say, well, why are you in, Maryland, for example? Well, we're in Maryland because we had customers who said, we want your services. There's laws that are changing. We're in Detroit. We're doing a lot of work in Detroit right now because the laws are changing drastically and quickly. So we've gotten to 140 cities because that's where our clients wanted us to be.
Got it. And who is the ideal user here? What's the user profile?
As a commercial real estate broker, I was convinced that it would be a large percentage would be commercial real estate brokers, just because that's what I understand. It's actually a very small percentage of our customers are our brokers. There's about they're our smallest sector. Probably the second biggest bucket we have is what I would call consultants. Those are attorneys. Those are people who are not brokers, not the actual principals, but someone who's there to advise the industry. and that would probably be about 30%. And then
So if somebody wants to open a dispensary, they go to their lawyer.
Yeah.
And say, how do I do this?
Right, and the attorney, typically the attorney charges them $400 an hour, and then they turn around and use our software, and they make a good make a good penny off of it. Not to knock attorneys, but hey,
Feel free to knock attorneys.
whatever. But the reason our software is very user friendly. It's very interactive. You can take notes on it. There's a CRM on top of it. So what we found is it is so user friendly that the vast majority of our customers are the end users. They don't want to hire a broker. They don't need a consultant. It's pennies on the dollar for what it would cost to use either of those first two buckets. So it's really the end user that's the vast majority of our clientele.
Yeah, what I find interesting about your business, I think, is that I'm guessing here, and I'm going to ask you in a second, kind of what the makeup of the company looks like. But I imagine that we're talking about a lot of data scientists and developers, and maybe not a traditional kind of real estate firm that we're talking about here.
No, we're so me and another one of the co-founders are commercial real estate brokers by trade, but the remainder of the company is our data scientists, GIS, so geographical information scientists, city planners, GIS, or sorry, not GIS, but there's a technical term, but technical people. In fact, everyone on our staff, with the exception of the two commercial real estate brokers, have a master's degree or higher in what they're doing.
And was that a requirement, or just kind
No, it just kind of happened that way.
Got
We're again blessed to have some really smart people on this team.
Well, I'm very thankful that my company doesn't have that requirement. 'Cause I think
Well, yeah. Listen, I'm the low hanging fruit in the company. I'm the only one without a master. Me and Nate are the only ones without masters.
Yeah,
so.
but you guys are taking all the risk too. So.
Yeah. Well, hey. We've done plenty of commercial real estate deals. We have a master's in commercial real estate in some capacity, just not from an accredited university.
So risk brings up the topic of investment here. It sounds like you've got how many people on the team now?
We're up to 9.
9.
Yep.
So reasonably sized burn every month now. Are you looking for money? Have you got investment in the past?
Yeah, we are not really looking for money on the software side. We started to raise money originally when we got started in this, but as you would imagine, in Illinois, even though we were kind of an ancillary business, there were still a lot of people who were hesitant to do that. We went out to California. We went to some markets where it's a little bit more friendly, but people didn't really appreciate the value of the software at the time, and it actually was a good thing because it made us A, run lean for a while, and B, actually develop a product that had tangible value that people were willing to pay for all the time. So we've gotten to the point where we are primarily running on revenue as it comes to our technology side.
Got it. So maybe not profitable yet, but getting close.
We're pretty darn close.
Pretty close.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
Got it. And I imagine hiring developers and people in Illinois is significantly cheaper than San Francisco. Which could help a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're dead right. We don't necessarily have the talent pool that you do, but we also don't have, our rent is certainly cheaper. Our cost of labor is cheaper. We are lucky to have some really great talent. If any of our talent left, we'd be a hard place to replace a lot of them.
Got it.
But we have them. They're dedicated. They're really great.
Yeah, I was having a really interesting conversation with our producer yesterday about this, and San Francisco the Bay Area is long thought to be a great place to be an entrepreneur, maybe the best place to be an entrepreneur. And we do have this fantastic talent pool and all these resources, but at the same time, it's become so expensive that now I think it might not be the best place to be an entrepreneur, which is sort of interesting.
You have the most talent. You have the most opportunity. You have a lot of capital too.
Yeah.
So listen, grass is always greener. If you looked at our burn rate, the cost at which we operate, I'm going to guess it's pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
From what some
probably
of the
just office space to start with.
You would be.
And something tells me you probably own that space.
No, I don't own the space. I don't own the space, but I've actually done a lot of leasing in the building that we're currently in.
Okay.
So call it frugal, call it resourceful, call it cheap.
That's just your background.
Right. We've got a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
We've got a pretty good deal. We have I read the stuff about what's going on at Zenefits out here and some of these other startups. We don't have hot tubs. We don't have We haven't taken
see all that shit that came out about
we
that?
haven't taken
Oh
a
my
private
God.
jet anywhere. Not to knock Zenefits. Hey, sounds like a great place. If I knew all that stuff was going on, maybe I would have gone
My
work
friend
for them.
sent me this headline of Zenefits, and the subject was just, "Why don't you work here?"
Yeah, sounded like my fraternity in college. Sounded like a great spot. Like I said, if I'd known that was going on, I might have gone work for them.
That's hilarious. Okay, so as you look forward here, when did you launch HerbFront? How long has it been?
It's February, about 14 months ago.
Okay, 14 months ago. As you look forward, maybe to just 2016, I mean, what's next? What's the next big goal?
Yeah, I mean, November, I think with the election will bring a lot of clarity or lack of clarity. We're a software that cuts through the fog, if you will. What the legislative challenges are. So every time the law changes, that's somebody else who needs our software. So take Detroit, for example. Again, a very quick, rapid change to the law. 250 dispensaries have to move all within 30 days. Mm-hmm. That's opportunity for us.
Yep.
And so I'm not going to tell you I'm clairvoyant and I know what's going to happen, a year from now or 2 or 3. I'm pretty confident that whatever it is will be, someone's going to need our software.
Yeah. So when you have those quick changes in policy, do you see the traffic spike on your own? Tremendously?
Like instantly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we start getting calls. The day before Ohio almost went, I don't know exactly how many calls or any emails we got, but it was significant.
Wow. And what do people say in the calls and emails?
Are you ready to go? For Ohio, are you ready to go?
Yeah.
And in other ones like Detroit, it started to trickle in. I think I'm okay. Am I okay? I should be okay. And then it very quickly went to, oh my God, I'm not okay. Help me. So listen, we're there to help people. We don't make the laws. We just we just enforce them. Not enforce them. We clarify them.
You brought up the election, so I can't not talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a cannabis supporter, Bernie is an easy choice, but it doesn't look like Bernie's gonna make it. Not gonna be the candidate, right? And Hillary has yet to kind of say anything about cannabis one way or the other. Trump seems to be very critical about it in relation to his kids, but really hasn't made a public statement. Does the impending election concern you at all as far as your business? I mean, you're a software business, right?
Yeah, but listen, if someone were to come and just say we're going to start enforcing federal law, that would affect our business. No, I mean, don't really think about it because so much of what this industry takes place on the state and local level. The federal government's really been hands off. I guess I don't see one of the current contenders making a huge stab at it. I don't know. I don't have a lot of clarity there.
I kind of agree with you. I think that they're all kind of going to punt on it.
Yeah.
Because they don't really have to do anything.
Yep.
And they can let Colorado and Washington and probably California do whatever they want.
Yep.
And say, oh, you crazy hippies, and not worry about it.
That's your thing. It's a states' rights issue.
Yeah, it's your thing. Yeah. Which I think is the right choice.
That's my
I guess that might be conservative in me, but
but I can't disagree with it. It's a states' rights thing. If and that's as a company, that's a lot of what our belief is. We're not necessarily like, hey, every municipality should have it. A lot of them shouldn't.
Yeah.
But if your elected leaders determine that it is, or your ballot measures determine that it is, make sure it's done appropriately. Make sure it's not across the street from a school and a daycare and whatever it is. We just help people deploy their locations responsibly.
So if politics don't put you at risk, are you concerned with any other competitors? Is anybody else doing specifically this?
Not that we can tell. I mean, I keep thinking there's going to be somebody. There's certainly other software companies, I guess, that could. Whether it's the taboo of the industry, they just haven't. They haven't made that move, and we've taken the software now, moved it on to some other industries like industrial and retail. We've taken the software and moved it well beyond cannabis. But those other people haven't really come into our space. So as far as I can tell, nobody else is doing it, and I'm just as happy to keep it that way. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know as much about the nuances of the industry as you do, but it seems like a Trulia or a Redfin or a Zillow could do this, right? I mean, it's a cannabis filter.
You would think they have. No. I would guess they have the technical. I would assume they have the technical capacity to it to do it. And again, and I won't name the company, but it's a very well known real estate company, not Zillow or Trulia, but again, you would certainly know who it is. They're trying to do some GIS work on their own. They've been trying for about 2 years now to get this thing kind of going, and surprisingly enough, they can. And they asked about licensing our software, totally under a different model, and frankly was floored that such a well-known real estate company was not capable of pulling off.
Fascinating.
So, you'd be shocked. I'm shocked at some of the people who you would think would be able to do it. But
and do you think that's a lack of like product development knowledge?
That's their own problem. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
But listen, if they can't figure it out, that's great for us.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as they want to talk, they want to talk.
Yep.
Right. Good stuff. Okay, so let's get into a few fun questions
Okay.
here. I always like to have a little fun. We talk about the election, but the cannabis space is sort of interesting. It's maybe like what I consider 60 or 70% business and maybe 30 or 40% entertainment.
Okay.
And there's sort of like all these cannabis celebrities popping up. You know, there's Snoop Dogg's been in the world for a while. The Marley Brothers are back. Is there somebody that you kind of look at and you follow? You know, you think it's kind of cool? I think that's a tough question.
No, it's listen. How do you not like Snoop? Like, how do you not like Willie? You know, Bob Marley and his kids. I mean, love them. Whether I'm in this industry or not, I listen to them all on my headphones every once in a while. Irregardless. I can't say there's anyone that I'm like.
Yeah. You're gung ho.
Yeah, but listen. But that said, I would to take it to the other side. Been doing this for the last 14 months. There's a lot of really interesting, cool people. This is a space that's totally undefined. And what listen, there's certainly a lot of charlatans in the industry to be sure of. But there's also a lot of really smart, really sharp, really cool people that have taken expertise and specializations outside this industry and applied it to this industry that again has yet to be defined.
You just hit the theme of the whole show, man. Just like anybody taking intelligence from some other area, domain expertise in some other area like yourself, and applying it to cannabis.
Yep.
And that's what's so fascinating. It's changed so quickly that we need those kind of minds, right? Because anybody that's been in it for 30 years or so, well, give or take, they're a criminal, right? Right? So,
yes. Yeah.
I don't say that lightly, but a lot of them have gone to prison, and they're upfront about that. So.
Yeah, and the way we look at it is, listen, everyone's within the industry. Everyone's kind of got their niche. Depending on how you calculate different parts of the industry, the industry is a $2, $3, $4, $5 billion industry. The way we calculate the real estate that sits underneath the industry, it's about a $10 billion industry. So the real estate that sits under the industry, by our calculations, is about twice what the actual industry itself is. But nobody else seems to be focusing on the real estate. So. Yeah, unique space.
Wow.
We kind of find ourselves.
We should clip that segment out right there. That was good stuff, man.
There you go.
Good work. Well, thank you for being on the show, man.
Yep.
It's been a lot of fun. I wish you a lot of luck. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. Sure. Thanks for having me.
And next time I'm out in Chicago, I'll look you up. But won't tell anybody I'm there because cannabis is apparently like
we have a lower level
word,
space. They won't know.
All right, man. Thanks again.
Cool.
We are 100% homegrown, independent media. No one controls us and no one dictates the information, the topics that we talk about on this show. But in order to maintain that, I need you to take the little bit of leap with us and also invest in cannabis.
So there's this company called Patreon, this great startup here in San Francisco, and they allow you to donate small amounts of money every month to the followers, the artists, the people that you want to patronize, right? The people that you want to give money and support to continue creating the content that you love. Even if you aren't in a position to come out to the world or you got a conservative job, if you're smoking cannabis, if you're enjoying it, just donate a little bit of money to us anonymously, right? So there's nobody else out there is going to know that. You can go to our Patreon page. We'll link it out for you right here, and just give $5-10 a month. I mean, you're buying that in weed anyway. So let's support the movement, and let's all invest in cannabis.